Hey everybody, good morning. It is day 132 of spiritual healthcare, and it is New Year's, almost New Year's anyway. It's going to be New Year's in like hours. It's December the 30th, so we don't have a whole lot of time left in 2020, which is making most people very happy. But we're going to talk about New Year's moving forward, what we're going to do, and some of the attitudes that we can pull into the new year, as well as talk about one of the New Year's ghost stories, which I think is really cool. The Westminster Bridge in London. And it's phenomenal because probably one of the most, or a controversial ghost photo was taken, called the Parliament Ghost, on New Year's Eve, a number of years back, 2014. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that photo, what that's all about, and I'll post that on Entity Seeker, the Facebook page as well. So good morning to Ed and Des. Nice to see everybody. Nice to see you all logging in this morning. I hope you guys had an amazing Christmas. I hope it was really good. I know it was a lot quieter for most people, but I hope you guys had a good Christmas. It was good here too. We hung out, and it was a good Christmas. It was a little quieter than normal, but it was good. So good morning to everyone. As I say, today we're going to talk about the coming New Year's, and the attitudes, what brings in a new year, as well as as I say, a really, really cool ghost story from London. And a very famous, or what's become kind of a famous photo, and I'm not actually entirely sure why, but the bridge is definitely worth discussing, which is Westminster Bridge in London. Probably one of the most, or one of the most talked about haunted places in London anyway. So I hope you guys are great. John says, I hope you're well. So far, so good. For the most part. My partner was quite sick last month, which was not fun, but everybody seems to be on the mend. So welcome. Oh, good morning, Laura. Hello. It's good to see you. So it's good to see everybody, and as I say, I hope you guys had a really good Christmas. New Year's is coming up. We're like launching into 2021, and what I've noticed is that so many people are so focused and I guess kind of addicted to this idea that the 2021 is going to be, because the clock is turning over, that must mean that things are changing, that things are going to change. So I want to talk about that today, and what that means, and time, and all of those things. We might end up down a rabbit hole, but we'll see what happens. So I wanted to talk about a sort of an interesting photo that was taken in 2014, and I'll post this photo for you on the Entity Seeker Facebook page, and it was actually taken as I say, on the Westminster Bridge in London. And what it is somebody took a photo of the Abbey, or the buildings of Parliament, I should say. And what they see in the front of the photograph is this person that looks transparent, that is leaning over the bridge, kind of like this, and is looking at these beautiful buildings. And it's a nighttime scene. And the fellow that took it, it was a company called Concert Photography. They posted the image to YouTube, and there was a big controversy about it. They're like, oh my God, did we capture a ghost? So the take on this from most photographers and whatnot is that this is actually just a long exposure. Somebody wandered into the frame, the camera was on long exposure, the person wandered out of the frame, and now you've got what looks like a transparent person that's standing over the bridge. So people still argue about this photo, but the photo was taken on New Year's Eve and whatnot. But I think the interesting part, and what kind of got overshadowed with this Parliament ghost, is the fact that the bridge itself actually is steeped in haunted history. So even though the photo looks as though it's a man-made photograph, and man-made and is basically like an error essentially, or it was hoaxed, I don't know which. But the bridge itself has some really interesting backstory. And it was in 1933 that a man named Elliot O'Donnell ended up running into a spectral woman on the ferry. He was on the ferry, and he noticed this spectral woman who had this black veil over her face. And he was not the only one to have seen this. There's been a number of people that have seen It was like 2 or 3 people that have seen this black spectral woman. So there's been a number of sightings of her on New Year's Eve. And of course, there was a fellow at the stroke of midnight, Big Ben goes off and whatnot, that was said to have committed suicide off the bridge in 1888. And there was a thought at some point that it might possibly, these people that they're seeing on the bridge might even be someone like Jack the Ripper. So there's a lot of controversy that has gone on in and around the Westminster Bridge, but it's really cool. And New Year's Eve seems to be kind of this hot spot, probably because a lot of people go there and are looking out over the river, and they want to see fireworks and whatever. So people start seeing stuff around the Westminster Bridge. So it's kind of cool. But the photo in and of itself doesn't look incredibly, Laura says, she always stays at the hotel next to Westminster Bridge. And yeah, it's really interesting. So there's a lot of people that have I guess debated, the relevance of this photo, but I think, there's such a long, steeped history of the Westminster Bridge being haunted that the photo kind of overshadows, some of the deeper history. There was a homeless pedestrian from Romania who was actually hit and killed during a collision with a taxi and a bus in 2012 there, as well as another Russian student who was killed when she was struck by a taxi, but she didn't pass away. That wasn't until 2014. So there's been a lot of death. There's been a lot of chaos, I guess, on that bridge. There was another person who, as I say, took their life. It wasn't December 31st. That bridge just seems to be kind of a hotbed of both suicides and all sorts of things. So kind of crazy, kind of creepy for New Year's for New Year's Eve. Good morning to Brandy. Good morning to Marge. Nice to see all you guys. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up today, as I say, with Westminster and the idea of, I think a lot of people are questioning and thinking about what's going on, what is moving forward into 2021 look like. And I've found that a lot of people are really hinging on it being about the big turnover, about the clock, which is why I think, places like Westminster Bridge and whatever end up being the scene of suicides and stuff like that. Because on New Year's Eve, because people are thinking about what is their life going to be coming into the next year, and you can pick whether it's good, bad, or ugly. But the thing that I really wanted to bring home today and I'm going to give you guys some homework about this as well, because I think it's important, is that the movement on the clock is not what keeps things new. It really isn't. Time is a very human construct. That's something that, we've created in order to, make appointments and do, exist in a world that's functional. But we know now that time speeds up, it slows down, it stops, it moves, it's all over the place. And what keeps it moving is the movement of your mind. It's the movement of energy. And we've really got to start looking at 2021 as this opportunity to let go of any toxicity or anything like that we have built into our environment, because there is so many people right now that are, for example, sick in the hospital, that are begging for the opportunity to be able to do this, to be able to make this decision going into the new year. And 2021 and 2020, for instance, actually very, very much so, it has been about change. And we've got to really realize that in moving into this 2021, we have a limited amount of focus, or a lot of us have a limited amount of focus. And we have to start to realize that the people who you had in 2020 might not necessarily be the people that you're going to have in 2021. It might not look the same. You probably have noticed that now. If you look around you, what my friend Crystal and I, we were talking about this on the phone the other day, is that the contrast between the people who say were here at the beginning of 2020, the behaviors, the bad habits, the sickness, the illness, all of those things, interestingly enough, we've noticed has drastically increased between like January 2020 and January 2021. and you guys have probably noticed this as well, is that the people who, you know, were kind of not that great for you at the beginning are now exhibiting behaviors that are just, you're just like, what in the hell happened? What happened to you? So the contrast is getting greater. And I think this is sort of a time where, you know, we get to choose whether or not and how we are going to focus. So we can't let the habits of what we were doing in the past enter this new year. That's what the new year is about. That's what new year is what are we going to do? How are we going to change our habits from one year to another year? And this isn't something that's done by willpower or a New Year's resolution. The willpower is a kind of a myth. It doesn't exist. It's short-lived. Okay. You can have willpower for like a week, but unless you start getting into a new habit, into a new way of, into a new lifestyle, into a new way of being in your head, the rest of it's not going to fall into place. So ultimately, you know, what separates us at this point is not anything but transformation and the desire to evolve. And I think we need to really take a hard look at the people and individuals in our experience that are willing or have been willing to transform, to get up off the ground, their willingness to evolve, their willingness to move into a new headspace, to grasp at what they want, and to get up off the ground. Because let me tell you, there has been a really interesting pattern that I've noticed with people because 2020 was so hard on so many people, and it really put us through a bit of a battering, because everybody had different challenges in different areas. And now we are at the point where, you know, everybody seems to be, you know, fighting over political parties or ideals or, you know, very much external things. But the battleground is really our own minds. It's how we decide to view this stuff going forward. You know, do we believe the age-old question, you know, is this a friendly universe? Depending on how we answer that question really determines our experience in life. And again, what separates us right now as people is do we have the ability to transform into something else? You know, we like to think it's a geographical location, or it's a political party that's the problem, or it's this that's the problem, or that's the problem. But ultimately, the universe isn't sitting here, you know, looking at or relying on human systems. It just isn't. It didn't when the world was created, and it sure isn't now. It's going to operate and do what it does in the best interest of the universe. It wants well-being. It wants evolution. It wants creation. So what we say about us, about what we say about that, will ultimately be the thing that's going to defeat you in the year coming forward. It's a really big deal. Brandy is saying, Shadow and I took the opportunity on the winter solstice to write a list of all the things we wanted to let go of from 2020 and took it to the beach to burn and physically let go. Now we want to write things to focus on the coming year and not making resolutions. Yeah, I think you're dead on with that. I think you're dead on with that. And it's such, I'm glad you guys took the initiative to go do that. I bet it was empowering, it was cleansing. And you're completely right. If we can have a new year, we can go into 2021. The clock is going to turn over. That's how our clocks work. But if we don't have a mind that's different, it's going to mean absolutely nothing. It's January 1st. It's going to look like December 31st. Straight up, it's the way it's going to be. You know, a new house doesn't make a new relationship. A new outfit doesn't make a new person. You know, we have to choose how we look at our lives, and how bad you want it will determine, and get a load of this because this is important, how bad you want it will determine whether or not you are willing to let go of the toxicity and the bad habits and the bad patterns and step into something else. So that, I think, is such a big, that's such a big key. Because ultimately it is how bad you want it. Not will necessarily determine that you will get that exact thing, but it will determine if you are willing to let go of the things that you're hanging on to that are maybe a part of a toxic part of your story or a toxic part of your identity that is inhibiting you from getting what you really, really want. So everything that we invest in someone who doesn't want to move forward in transformation and change will leak out. Okay, so everything that you put into your brain or someone else's brain that is not wanting a change, not wanting transformation, not wanting to evolve, not wanting to move forward, will leak out. It's like pouring something into a bucket with a giant hole in it. It doesn't matter how much you dish in, it's going to leak out. And every moment that you're doing that, and this is the key with people like this, and some people know they're doing it, some people don't know they're doing it. But every single time that you pull your energy from people like that and put it into someone who is, is grounded, is kind of stuck where they are, that doesn't have any want to move forward or anything like that, it steals the time, it steals your mental energy, it's thieving other people, it's making other people essentially thieves, because they are stealing your time, your energy, your positive mindset, all of that. And as I say, a lot of them don't even know they're doing it. They really don't. It's how they've decided to live their life. But we have the choice. We have the decision to make, to go, okay, how much of that are we going to allow them and enable them to steal? We've got to be, we got to be thinking about that. Marge is saying she keeps her mouth shut now. Yeah, I hear you. I've become that way, especially with things like Facebook. I've talked about that before, where it's become very polarizing and whatnot. Irene De La Garza says it's her birthday today. Happy birthday! Oh, that's so cool. Happy birthday. What a great time to have a birthday. A birthday, I've always had this mindset that the birthday is really about rebirth, right? And that's what we're talking about today, which is rebirth. And you can have a birthday now. You can have a birthday if it's not even your birthday. It's rebirthing the mind. Marilyn Manson had a great line in one of his songs where he talked about, today is my birthday, because I'm letting go of these old ideals and I'm bringing in something new. And I always thought that was absolutely brilliant. So happy birthday. So telling somebody that they are behind, or you're pouring information into them that is just simply not, it's just not where they're ready to accept or to hear. And so here's the other thing about this, is that when you are talking to somebody who is on a completely different vibrational frequency than you, because we've talked about this so much before with paranormal events and things like that, how one person can walk into a home and be in complete peace and harmony with the environment, complete peace and harmony in the home, and then the next people move in and they have a terrible experience with the haunting, right? They have a terrible experience. They don't know what these people were referring to when they said they had a nice, calm, peaceful house. And they move out, and then you have another family move in, and they go, well, those people must have been faking it, because there's just nothing going on here. And we see this all the time. We saw this with the Amityville house. We've seen it with cases just across the board. And again, this comes down to frequency, right? It comes down to the people who ran into trouble with this negative entity, whatever it is, was in line, was in receiving the receiving space of getting it by existing emotionally within the range of this negative entity, where the people who maybe moved in later and had no problem were just in a different vibrational range. They're just in a different frequency. They're not receiving the same thing. It doesn't mean that these other people were wrong. Their experience wasn't wrong. It was just where their frequency, where they were vibrating, what they were attracting in. So we have to remember that when we go into relationships with different people, that this still applies. So you can be dumping information into somebody who is not within the realm of hearing you. They're not within the realm of accepting you. They're not within the the realm of hearing what you're saying. And it could be the fact that they're just simply not on the right frequency. They're not vibing with that. So it doesn't matter how much you talk to them. It's not going to matter. They are already sort of hardwired into this frequency. Until they start to shift on that, there's nothing there. You're not going to hear them. They're not going to hear you, and it's not going to matter. But nor is it your job to lower your vibrational state to get to where they are. Okay? It's not your job to be able to do that, or to change them, or to make them see differently, because you can't. You just can't. It's not gonna matter. Just in the same way that, you know, as paranormal researchers, we go into a house. It's not our job to get down to where the negative entities are, or to where our client is. We have to stay up here in a higher vibration and be the compass that somebody can follow to when they're ready to move forward. It's not our job to make those decisions for them. It just isn't. So we have to remember that you can basically tell them, well, you know what, you got till midnight, and then you're leaving them behind. So there's that. But I really think we really need to start setting a deadline on some of this stuff. You know, what are you going to tolerate moving forward into the new year? What are you going to do? There's really no room for this stuff anymore. And especially because, you know, a lot of people are having limited funds now. You know, people who were, you know, once, you know, making a really good wage might be broke now. You know, I know my friends and family who are in the entertainment industry right now are struggling terribly. You know, people who are earning, you know, $250,000 a year are now down to nothing. You know, it's been insane, and there is no time. There's no time anymore to hang on to this and to keep this going. So, and as I say, we have to remember there are people in the hospital right now who wish they are having this discussion right now. They hope that they're going to be moving into the new year. So we have to take that opportunity. Do you have the mindset? Do you have the mindset to receive whatever is coming? And I think the new year is such a great time to be able to check in with yourself and go, okay, hold up. What am I doing going forward? What am I doing? Where am I emotionally sitting, vibrating? You know, what am I putting out there? You know, because who we are, what we think, you know, what our energy is when we come into the next phase of you know, this experience is really going to determine what this new year is going to look like. It's not dependent on a political party. It's not dependent on, you know, what your family thinks or what they're supporting. It's not dependent on a virus. It's not dependent on any of this stuff. It's dependent on your mindset. What are you projecting? How are you moving forward? How do you view it? And what bad crap are you let go of in order to move into this next phase? So it really, it's not about belief systems or anything else. It really comes down to what it is that you are doing and what you are willing to do to step into this new era. So the challenge that I have for you guys before New Year's hits, or maybe on New Year's, is, can you decide on 3 things, not only that you want, because we've done a lot of that this year, but 3 things, 3 habits, maybe it's 3 people, maybe, I don't know. But what are you going to change? What negative habit are you going to change? And what are you willing to let go of to move into 2021 that is going to change your world? So I'm not talking about, man, I just need to eat more fruit. What I'm talking about, honestly, is what are you going to do that you can change, that you can let go of, that is going to make an impact in a way that is going to shift your experience in 2021. So as I say, it could be turning around and getting rid of that toxic person that is just keeps, you know, bringing you back. It could be, you know, something that you're a negative thought or a negative tape that you're perpetuating in your brain. You know, it could be taking time out of your day, taking more time out of your day. Maybe you need more, alone time with meditation. Maybe what is it that you're willing to stop doing and start doing? Because here's the thing about habits. So you can turn around and say, I'm going to stop doing this thing. But like I was saying at the beginning, willpower is kind of a myth. And we have to be able to start replacing those things. So once you're decided what you're letting go of, what are you putting in its place? What do you, if you've decided that you're done with not taking enough time for yourself, what are you putting in its place? What are you implementing? So there's the 3 things that you guys are going to figure out. What is it? 3 things. 1, 2, 3. What is it that you're getting rid of? What's the first thing? What is it you're putting in its place? So the next thing, what is it that you're getting rid of? What are you putting in its place? Come up with 3. And I think once you guys get to see the fact that implementing these changes is going to, it starts to move you forward in these, what seems like really subtle ways, but ultimately it won't be. You're going to want to do this more and more. It won't stop at 3. You guys might come up with like 5 or 6. I don't know. But sometimes it's easier to start with a lower number, because making those shifts into the next, in your life can be rough at first, especially if they've become a habit. Like, we don't think about this, but people become a habit, right? Like if you're used to talking to this person all the time, then not talking to this person is going to take some retraining of your brain. So, there's certain things that you're going to have to retrain yourself about, but it's going to be, it's going to be a big one. Marge is already coming up with stuff. She says food choices is going to be one for her. Yeah. And again, make sure that you're dealing with the psychology behind it as you're moving forward, being able, I think, to ask ourselves, well, what belief did you have about yourself that was causing you to make the choices to begin with? And usually it's a self-worth thing. Like 99% of these, you're going to go, oh my God, I'm not, this is self-worth. I'm not treating myself well. So yeah, and it's going to be that way with people too. You're going to be like, I was letting this person kind of run my mental state simply because I just didn't care enough about myself to stop. So there's going to be a lot of that. So don't beat up on yourselves too much. Don't do that. Lance is saying that he's been meaning to watch one of the spiritual healthcare episodes. Made a point to do so today and was really happy he did. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you, Lance. Thank you so much. Tim's asking, will there be a quiz on this homework? Yes, there will be a quiz, and you'll know within the next couple of months whether or not you've passed. You're the one that's going to be you're marking your own grades on this one. Because yeah, there is going to be a quiz, but the idea is, don't beat up on yourself when you look back and you realize, maybe you didn't do as well at one and, did better at another. It's not about that. It's about learning a different way of being, and it takes a while. It takes a while, especially if you've been really neglecting yourself over a period of time. Then it's going to be harder and harder to mash that all together and to get it flowing. But it does really come back to what I was saying earlier, is that how bad you want it will determine the ability to let the negative go. And the one thing that I've seen consistently through all my clients over the years has been, they have wanted to, or the ones that have not succeeded have wanted to hang on to their, whatever that negativity is, more than they have wanted the thing that they're after, right? Whether it be peace in the home or whatever it is. Because we have to remember, the stuff that we have manifested now, at one point in time, we created. And we can create different. Laura is saying toxic people need to be blessed and blocked out of my life. Yeah, and that's the one thing I have to say about social media. I mean, it's good for a lot of things, but it's really, really good for, as I say, highlighting the behavior of the people around you. My friend Crystal, who I was mentioning earlier, she lives in Alabama, and she has been watching people that she has known for quite a long time, and friends of both her and her husband's for quite a long time. And the people that she thought she knew have done a complete 180 on her. And she's often seen it come out on Facebook. They forget who's watching and they start going nuts, or, really putting out, toxic beliefs or whatever it is that's going on. And she's had to remove quite a number of people because it was like spontaneous sincerity, right? They're writing and then all of a sudden the truth comes out. So I think there's been so many people that have felt that way this year. I know there's definitely been, as people where, like my family, for example, that when we have hit hardship with the craziness with the entertainment industry and stuff right now, where people have literally just, they just bail. They just don't want anything to do with you anymore. It's really crazy. Jen is saying it takes 21 days to break habits, provided you work on those changes. Yeah, and I think giving yourself at least the 21 days is important. But I do think we have to. I think we have to give ourselves that timeline. I like the idea that, Jen, that you brought up the 21 days, because I think sometimes we get complacent, and ultimately, if you don't have a timeline for, especially for something like this, then we tend to kind of put it off and elongate it, right? We're just kind of like, well, I'll do that tomorrow, or, I'm still on the path, but, I'll do that tomorrow, and then next thing you know, it's 2022. So I think giving ourselves a timeline is really, really important. And I think the crucial thing, as Laura was saying, is really to drop as many of the toxic people that we might have been maybe putting up with, or tolerating, or it's just so and so, whatever excuse we've got going. I think I think that is going to be crucial for mental health going forward. And if you've got somebody that is sort of, I don't know, like just removing themselves or is disconnecting from you, I think let them. We don't lose things. We end up with a vibrational difference with it. Oftentimes, like I'll have people or clients say to me, oh my God, some of this activity started when, I lost my job. You didn't lose your job. You became something that your job didn't match up with. Your job fell away. That's how this works. You become vibrationally something that thing is not matching up with. And now, because there's been so many changes through this year, people have shifted vibrationally, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. But we lose where we are vibrational, or where those people that do not vibrationally match up with us. And it's the same thing with jobs and everything else. So we don't lose things. This is an inclusive universe. It's inclusive. So, but anyway, so this coming year, because we're like a day away from New Year's Eve, which is crazy. Think about New Year's that way, and think about what you guys want. What do you guys want to do? What things are we willing to put energy into? Because we got to start focusing. Where are we putting energy? And to be able to choose, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to let go of that toxic crap that you've got, whether it be in your own mind or whether it be the people around us or whatever? And to remember that the people around us, those toxic people, are vibrational indicators. They're vibrational indicators of where we are, right? In our head. So there's something that's keeping them there. There's something within you that is keeping those people present. And you got to ask yourself why. What are they serving? Lori is saying exercise has to be it for her. Went to a couple of exercise classes before they all shut down due to the pandemic. But rather than continue to sulk, I need to replace these classes with outdoor activities or Zoom classes. Yeah, and for me, you know what? It's interesting because I think a lot of people have run into that, where it's like, okay, the thing that I was doing, I can't do anymore. And I totally get where you're coming from, because that happened with us with theater and things like that. But yeah, I think we have to remember that this eventually something is going to come up where we are going to need those skills. We're going to need that. We're going to need, whether it be, your health, your, exercise, whether it be, writing skills, whether it be whatever it is that stuff is going to come up. Are we prepared? Are we ready to meet that blessing? Are we ready for that? So that's a big question, right? Like if somebody came to you today and said, I really want to teach a fitness class, or I really want to teach or do a drama class, or I need you to help me do that. Would you be ready? Would you be ready? So the way I've always kind of looked at manifestations and stuff like that, and what I've learned over the years, because this has been like paramount for me, is that I always want to make sure that I am free, available, and ready for the blessing. And I think a lot of the times we get sort of stuck in a rut where we think, well, nothing's going on right now. I don't see it. I don't see how it could come to me. I don't see how, this could possibly show up right now. And lo and behold, something happens. And if you're not ready, you don't get, picked. You don't, people will look over you. And in the entertainment world, it's a huge thing, because, if you're not ready for whatever it is, let me tell you, you will be replaced in a heartbeat. Let me tell you, if you are not ready, no problem. I'll see you later. I got to go find somebody that is ready. So if we are not ready for that, you get passed over. And the universe is kind of like that too. If you're not ready, if you've got say for example, your finances are a complete wreck, how is the universe going to bless you, if you want to use that word, with more of that? If it can't trust you with what it's given you, why is it going to give you more? It won't. You can block your own blessings pretty quickly. If you've got, say for example, a negative outlook on money, and you see yourself in lack all the time and whatnot, it's like that's not in the receiving place of more of that. It just isn't. If you're not grateful for what you've got, you're not going to get more of the good things that are coming. It's a real catch-22, because we think that we have to have the next thing in order to make us feel better, and it doesn't work like that. We have to feel better, and then we get the next thing. It's every time, every single time. Marge says she discovered me, and she's so grateful that I have. Thank you for everything you put out there for us to drink in. Thank you, Marge. Thank you. You guys make this happen every week. I tell you, you guys make this happen every week. And I think, as I say, going into 2021, we've got a lot of work to do. Things are changing. And if we don't keep up with what's going on and ourselves and our mindset and those changes, we are going to drown in it. I know the news here, on the physical level, a lot of the political parties and stuff like that here in Canada are pushing a lot of change that's coming up and whatever. And I think if we are not ready mentally and emotionally with what we want, and we're not clear, we get lost, right? We get lost in the input of outside information and outside changes. So we have to be clear. We have to have a vision as to what we're doing, or else things are going to look pretty chaotic, I think. So anyway, everybody, I want to give you guys your affirmations before we go, because in like a day, we're going to be getting ready for New Year's. So that's that crazy. Or like 2021. And Lori's saying, the beauty for me getting older is that I realize much sooner when someone's toxic and can deal with it much quicker. Yeah, and some of that does. It does come with with age, but ultimately I think it comes with wisdom. And age and wisdom aren't always tied in together. We like to think that. I think that people, older people must be wiser, and that's just not always true. If you ever watch some of the political debates, if you are out of your vortex enough that you're watching some of the political debates, you realize that, let me tell you, age and wisdom aren't always like it's crazy. It's crazy, but I think sometimes age can root us in these old habits, and we become less likely to learn. So I think the people who are able to admit to themselves that they can still learn are the ones that become the elders who we want to listen to, who are the wise ones, who are the people who can pass down their own lessons because they've internalized their own lessons. And yeah, so, and Sally's saying that she doesn't necessarily not forgive, but you can just cut people out of your life and be content and happy. Well, and that can be forgiveness. Remember this too. So forgiveness doesn't have anything to do with the other person. You don't have to forgive somebody and keep them around, right? Like you don't. The forgiveness is about letting go of the hope that they or the past is going to be any different, right? It's literally about saying, I am not allowing you into my world to do damage anymore. I don't hold resentment towards you. You know, you're going to go off and do what you're going to do, but you don't hold me emotionally hostage. So forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness is literally about saying, you know what? I can forgive you from like a distance. I can forgive you from a distance. You know, like there's plenty of people in my life that I've forgiven and I have nothing to do with them anymore. Like zero to do with them. I won't talk to them. I've them like blocked, and whatever. And, but I don't get I'm not emotionally tied up with it either. Like I can talk about them and tell you the story about them and I'm not upset by it. It's just part of the story. So I think forgiveness, people get it screwed up where people think forgiveness is about, accepting what they did and then just moving on with them. And it doesn't have to be that way at all. It can be literally like, you know what, I forgive you, good luck. And as I've done that, I can't even tell you how many times I have done that with people. I did that with somebody recently where it was like, you know what, I really wish you the best. Good luck. Good luck. You know, it doesn't mean I don't have to be mad. I can just say, see ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Good luck. And Jen is saying, I don't necessarily forgive them, but forgive myself for putting up with their crap. Forgiving yourself that's a huge part of this. That's a huge part of this is, can you forgive yourself for dealing with it? And that can get really hard if you're dealing with somebody who has been, abusive towards you or like an abusive relationship or something like that. That can get really hard. Or say if you feel responsible for, something terrible happening to somebody or somebody doing something terrible to you, being able to forgive yourself can be one of the hardest things because we tend to let other people off the hook more than we let ourselves off the hook. And again, it comes back to that self-love. It really does. And we have to begin to hold ourselves, to, I think, more reasonable standards sometimes because, not allowing that forgiveness doesn't mean that you're not learning from it. It doesn't mean that you're, going to allow yourself to remain in that holding pattern. Forgiveness is being willing to let go of the holding pattern. It's being willing to turn around and say, you know what? I'm actually not willing to sit in this space anymore and be miserable about this. I run into this quite frequently, actually, with people who have lost loved ones, who now want communication, for example, with their loved ones, or feel their loved one, might be like hanging around the house or, whatever it is. And often what will happen is that they are holding themselves in such a pattern of guilt and shame and misery and grief and all of these things that they miss the relationship that they will now have with that person in non-physical. It's really interesting. And it's not until they're able to forgive themselves, it's not until they're able to turn around and say, you know what, I fell out of, maybe I was in disconnection for a time period. I'm human, that happens. I want to build this relationship with this person who is now non-physical energy, who is now pure joy, who is now, just become source energy embodied, that they start to realize that the only one that's holding themselves apart from that is their own mind beating themselves up for whatever it was that happened. So they end up missing the relationship completely because they're sitting there in anger and shame and guilt, and it's really, really hard. And Marge is saying she's worked on understanding the whys. Once you have the answers, it makes sense. Yeah, and sometimes it's really hard to find what those answers are. Sometimes closure isn't necessarily something that we can get from other people. And that's, I think, one of the biggest hangups that people end up with is the fact that, so-and-so never forgave, never said they were sorry, or they were never, they never lamented for what they did to me, or, and people end up getting stuck in anger because of that. And I think ultimately that's where we have to realize that the closure that we are going to get, and Marge, it's like what you're talking about, is from yourself. It's from yourself. You are going to be the one that's providing that closure. It's not going to be necessarily the other person. If you are dealing with a narcissist, or you're dealing with a sociopath or a psychopath or someone with antisocial personality or whatever, you may never ever get what you want. In fact, they are probably going to blame you for it. Whatever is going on with them, whatever they did to you, you have now perpetrated them. So you will probably never get an apology for somebody like that, and they will probably go to their grave blaming you for what you did. And it is insane. Like the crazy men, when you get into personality disorders like that, the crazy men, let me tell you, it's nuts. And people go absolutely mad when they realize that, they can't get out of them what they want, which is an apology and stuff like that. And it's a real problem. And it sends, people with a relatively normal mind, sends us absolutely nuts, because it's like, why can't this person see it? They don't have it to give. They won't see it, can't see it. It's not how they're wired. And you might never ever get what you want from them. And the sooner that you can forgive them for that and say, you know what? You just can't see it. You are sociopathic. You are a narcissist. You are whatever it is. You cannot see it. You're not capable of it. Just in the same way that, you can't, go to a cow and get mad at them for not having chocolate milk. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to, they can't do it. They're not physically capable of doing it. And some people aren't physically capable of empathy or seeing, what it is that they need to give. So and don't have it anyway. So yeah, it's a slippery slope. That's a slippery slope. Maybe that'll be next class. Maybe that'll be next class. It's like a whole other class. All right. So everybody, we got to do some affirmations before we go, because we are on I guess it's New Year's Eve, I think. Yeah. New Year's Eve. All right. So everyone take a breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve their individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. It might be an illness in the mind, remember. I only have to gently, eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it's reversing its course right now. And there's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do. Well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body. My cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe. And I can do that easily. Everybody take a breath. So, the next time we are here, we are going to be in 2021. And hopefully you guys will have the time to be able to sit down and write out what you're going to let go of and what you're replacing it with. Start with 3. Start with 3 things. And see where you get with that tonight and the next night. And, they, Brandy and Shadow had a great idea, which was, they went out on the beach and they just burned it. And I think coming up with a ritual like that is a really great idea. We're ritualistic beings, and rituals matter. They matter. They're landmarks. So thank you guys for an incredible year. We have done a year of spiritual healthcare. You realize we've done a year, like almost a year of spiritual healthcare. That's crazy. So see you guys in 2021 and have an amazing New Year's, everybody. Bye.